So maybe you're learning about how to, use Snyk to fix your vulnerabilities and your projects are up in GitHub, or maybe you want to start using GitHub since Snyk has that integration. This session is going to help you maybe get past some hurdles you might be running into with that. So without further ado, let me bring on Dr. Sarah Guthals to come talk about that. Hey, Sarah.
Hello. Hey, Brian. How's it going?
It's going well. Getting a little tired. We're several hours into the stream now, but hanging in there really good. Feeling energized and having
Good.
all different folks coming in and bringing their energies, keeping me going. So,
Yeah, definitely. I bet.
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, just, living the life of being a chief executive mom and doing some tech on the side. So I am doing really great.
Excellent. That's awesome here. So you're gonna be talking to us about GitHub, right? And helping folks get started.
Yes. Yes. GitHub is just such a powerful tool and community. And so I wanted to give just kind of a brief intro. This will be hands-on, but if you don't want to follow along with me in real time, that's fine. There's going to be some documents that I can point you to. And yeah, we'll jump into what GitHub is, how it's used, and how you can contribute to projects like Snyk.
Awesome. All right, I'll step out of the way. I'll share your screen if you're ready for that.
Sounds good.
All right, take it away.
Thank you very much. So hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Happy to be here. We are going to be talking about GitHub today. A little background on me. I have my PhD in computer science with a focus on education. So how we can teach and learn tech topics better for everyone, for kids, for adults, for the next generation, whoever. And in previous lives, I was a engineering manager at GitHub, building integrations into Visual Studio and Atom and VS Code and Unity. I was an advocate at Microsoft, and now I am kind of just doing my own thing and figuring out what I want to do next. I wrote GitHub for Dummies with my former manager, Phil Hack, my manager at GitHub, and I just want to kind of give you this hands-on intro. So what is GitHub? Basically, GitHub is a place where you can store your code. Like at the very, very basic level, it's just kind of like a server where you can like send your code to make sure that if your computer crashes, your code is nice and safe and secure over on GitHub servers. But more than that, GitHub is about collaboration and community and open source projects. It's the world's largest open source community. And open source really just means code that is open. It's available to the public to view, to comment on, and potentially contribute to. And I'll walk you through that a little bit too. And yes, I am going to be looking at the chat, so feel free to drop comments in there. I wanted to show you first the GitHub homepage. So this right here is the GitHub homepage. Is it this way? No, it's this way, which is opposite of where my screen is. So the GitHub homepage right over here. This is an example of a GitHub homepage if you have already been doing some work on it. So yours might look different if you're just signing up. You can get a free account on github.com. And I just kind of wanted to walk you through a couple of things. So first of all, we have repositories, and repositories are basically like a project. It's where all of the code for a particular project lives. So you can see these are some of the repositories that I've been working on lately. There's also things like teams. We won't get into teams today, but you can learn more about teams. That's a way to more group people rather than projects, but you can have projects part of teams, and it just kind of makes it easier to ensure the right people have the right access to the right code. Down here in the center, we've got activities. So these are all of the activities that have been happening on repositories that you follow, repositories that you've created, that you own, etc. And then up here at the top, we have a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight. So for example, over here in the Explore tab, we have topics that might be interesting to you based on your habits on GitHub. So this might be things that you've contributed to, things that you've commented on, or things that you've starred. So you can come in here into topics, and you can see Jupyter Notebook is really popular right now. Electron is really popular right now. Jekyll is really popular right now. And these are some of the topics that are more popular. But really, there's just like tons and tons and tons of topics and projects that you might be interested in that are all public repositories that you can look more into. Interestingly, if we go into things like trending, we can see that the top trending repository today is actually one on security vulnerabilities. I couldn't have planned this. This is just a coincidence. This is the live page. But you can see right here that the GitHub owned repository advisory database is the one that is trending right now, is the one that people are most contributing to, starring. Maybe it's because all of you are working on the big fix. Who knows? In addition to that, we've got this marketplace up here at the top. This is where you can find all of the different GitHub extensions and integrations. You'll be able to find Snyk in here, I'm sure, and anything that you might need to help you write code that is secure, code that is open for collaborations, and just code that is more high quality and ready for the public. All right, so that's kind of the github.com page. We also have profiles. So GitHub is a place to store your code, but it's also a place where you can represent yourself as a developer. Couple of things on your profile. You can have a picture, your username. Down here, you can have some pinned repositories. So these are repositories that you think are the most important things for people to take a look at. And then yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did just release the GitHub advisory database a couple days ago, but I'm excited to check it out. You can see some of the contributions I've made. So you can see I took some breaks in here and kind of my activity. I do not encourage a fully dark green contribution matrix. It's not a thing. I don't encourage that. I encourage you to have other interests as well. But one thing that's really awesome, this was released maybe about a year ago, is the ability to have a README. So you can have a README. All you have to do is create a repository that's the same name as your username. So we're going to create a repository in just a few minutes. But if you create a repository, my username on GitHub is Dr. Guthals. So I created a repository called Dr. Guthals and put a README in there. This is going to show up on my profile page. Sorry, over here. There's some really fun integration. So I've got like some pretty buttons for my Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. I decided to put my like profile. This is kind of my cover sheet for my resume up here just because it made sense for me to do that. But you can see other people do other things. So here's Brian's README. Sorry, Brian, I should have warned you that I was going to be highlighting it. But I really like this. Brian's got some GitHub stats on his. So you can see the stars that he's earned. So that means people who have starred repositories that he's created, commits that he's made in just this year, 95. That's incredible. PRs that he has created and then got merged, issues, and repositories that he has contributed to. He's got an A+ for GitHub
Hey now,
standards.
thanks for that. I was not expecting that, but yes.
Sorry,
And
sorry about
most of
it.
those commits are thanks to the big fix. So there you go.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Should have warned you. But I want to walk you through some of the GitHub flow next. And the way that I'm going to do that is we are going to, oh, sorry, actually, strike that. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is walk you through how to create a GitHub repository first, and then we'll jump more into some advanced flow topics. A couple of things first. I use two tools that work well with GitHub to work on my local desktop as well. I use GitHub Desktop, which you can find here. For some reason, I thought I had this open, but apparently it was in a different tab. So I use GitHub Desktop. GitHub Desktop is basically a visual representation of GitHub's connection between your local environment and the server. I'll explain that in more detail in just a minute. And then I also use Visual Studio Code. And Visual Studio Code is also a free tool that works on Mac and PC, as does GitHub Desktop. It's an editor, but it also has a really great GitHub integration. So those are the two tools that I will be using today to demo how to make a repository, how to write code, how to contribute PRs, etc. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's just create a repository. I'm going to do that by clicking this plus, which you can't really see it right now under the big fix here. Let me move it over a little bit. Stop. Nope, not that. I just want you to not be big. Here, maybe if I make it even bigger. Oh, right there. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to click on this plus button up here in the corner next to my profile picture, and I'm going to click on new repository. Maybe I will click on new repository. Maybe my computer just doesn't want to work. Okay, there we go. So when you create a new repository, there's a couple of fun things. One is you can create a template. You can create a repository based on a template. You can also create a template. Templates, basically, it's just a template. It's like a repository that will already have certain folders in it, maybe certain files in it, maybe it already has a README in it. So if you have a large project that you're working on that's going to have multiple repositories, or you have an organization and you want to ensure that every single person who creates a repository within your team or organization includes a particular license or a particular bit contributing guide or whatever it might be, you might want to create a template. In this case, I'm not going to base it on a template. If you're part of multiple organizations, you can have the owner of this repository be one of those organizations or teams. I'm just going to have this be my repository, and we're going to call this the Big Fix. It's available for my username. So this will be at Dr. Guthals / the Big Fix. So github.com / Dr. Guthals / the Big Fix. It is a good idea to always have descriptions and to always have just kind of an understanding of what it is you are creating, so that when anyone comes to this public repository, they know what they're finding. This is a demo repository for Snyk's The Big Fix stream on Feb 25th. 2022. You can make repositories public or private. This is available on the free github.com or free GitHub account status. So we're just going to make this public so y'all can check it out if you want. You can add a README file. README files are really important because they tell the other developers that are coming to this repository what this whole thing is about. What is this code about? You can actually see on Snyk's GitHub page, GitHub repository, they have an incredible README that's got the CLI kind of description, what it's all about. It's got really great images, what Snyk is, what are the supported languages, how to install it, additional installation methods if you don't want to use the NPM package, how to install it as part of the CLI integration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how to get started. Just so much information. When you're just getting started, you might not have this much information, but I just wanted to demo an example of a really, really great repo. README. So I always add a README file. You can also have a gitignore. Gitignore is a great way, is a file that you can put particular types of files or specific files that you don't want included when you are pushing and pulling code. And I'll explain what pushing and pulling code means in a minute. But for example, dsstore is just kind of like information that if you're working on a Mac will get added to code. It's just kind of meta information. Y'all don't need my specific meta information from my specific development environment up in a repository. So for example, I would include .dsstore as a file that I want GitHub to completely ignore when we're syncing code. And lastly, you can choose a license. I really, really love this page here. It's choosealicense.com. And all of these links, I will show you an easy place to get them all. So don't worry too much. But I love this place here because it tells you a little bit about what license you might want to choose. So for example, first of all, you should see what community you're contributing to and see if they have a preferred license type. You can also choose the MIT license if you just want it to be permissive, like simple, permissive. You can read through the license and make sure that you agree with it. But an example of projects that use this license is Babel, .NET Core, and Rails. If you want to ensure that anyone who is forking your repo, I'll explain what forking means in a minute, and making changes that they contribute back to the main project, you might want to use the GNU GPL v3 license. For example, Bash, GIMP, and Ansible use those. And if those don't work, you can choose other ones. For now, I'm just going to leave this one as the MIT license because it's fine. Y'all can use it. You can also change your main branch name I'll explain what a branch is in just a second. And I always like to have main because that's what makes sense in my head, but you can change that in settings afterwards. Yes, so you can, so someone just commented, always thought it was odd that MIT wasn't the default for getting it. But yes, at least in GitHub, you can set whatever the default is for yourself. The default in general is going to be nothing for this one. So once you create a repository, you get this page. Up here in this kind of grayish white square, this is kind of like a folder. This is our main folder of all of our code. Right now, we only have 2 files in our code. We have the README and we have the license. This is what the license looks like. Here's kind of the text below, and then here's a little bit more information about it. The README will always show up on that folder's page below the folder structure. So we've got the folder structure up here, and we've got the README file here. The nice thing about GitHub is that you can actually make changes right here. So I can change this to be the big fix by Snyk. Oops. And it already moved in my description that I included, but if you didn't have that when you first created it, you could add it here. And now we can preview it, make sure it's how we want it. This is a readme.md. MD stands for Markdown. Markdown is a type of language that helps you basically just write it with formatting. And when we scroll down here, we're going to commit changes. So a commit is basically like pushing save on a Word doc or a Google Doc or whatever. So committing is where you can make a lot of changes and you push save. So this is really just updating the README. And I'll add in a little bit more of a description, just showing some additional formatting. Now I can commit directly to this branch. A repository not only has files and not only has commits, which are kind of saves in time, but also has branches. So if I was going to be working on a completely new feature for some code, I might want to create a completely new branch where I can have multiple commits, multiple save points. And when I know this whole branch, this whole copy of the main repository, the code, works, and it's what I want, then I might merge this branch into the main branch. For now, this is just a simple change. I'm going to commit it directly to the main branch. Click commit. There we go. This is now my README. Head back to the home page. Now it says it like this. So how does this work with your local environment? First of all, you can click on code. And this is one of the reasons I like to use GitHub Desktop, because I can just say, open with GitHub Desktop. And I can say, yes, open it. And it opens it for me. So GitHub Desktop, this is what it looks like. It's going to suggest that I put it in my local path of documents. That sounds fine to me. Maybe I want it to be in Big Fix. There we go. And I'm going to click clone. Depending on how big the project is, it might take a little while. My project is very, very small, so it did not take any time at all. From here, we'll be able to see changes, and I'll show you that in a minute. We can see which branch we're on. We're on main, and we can fetch, which means... Could you say that again? I'm not talking to you, Siri. Which means that any changes that were on github.com, we can fetch those and bring those down to our local environment. This is the other reason I like to use Visual Studio Code as my editor, is I can just click open in Visual Studio Code, and it's going to open it for me over here. Maybe, maybe not, maybe, maybe not. Hello? Let's see. Maybe I am lying to you. All right, let me open and there it is. Yes, I trust. It's being wonky because I'm doing the full screen thing and it got kind of confused. Okay, so it's opened it here. Here is my README. And here's that license again. And we can see down here at the bottom, which my face is there. Thank you, Brian. Down here at the bottom, we can see we're on the main branch. I can create a new branch. So maybe I want to say local changes as my new branch, just to kind of give you an example. The branch down here, this is a copy. We cloned it. So it's a copy of our code up on github.com. So any changes that I make here aren't going to be reflected yet on github.com. including making that new branch. So we're currently on local changes, which is a new branch. We have not pushed it up yet. We have not published this branch to github.com, which means if we come here, we still only have one branch, which is main. If I publish this branch, no changes yet, I'm just publishing the branch. Then when I come back over here and refresh, we will have two branches. We will have main and local changes. Now let's make some changes down here. This stream is awesome. I love the big fix with Snyk. Let's go ahead and leave that typo in there. I'm going to click save. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to GitHub desktop, and we're going to see that I have a difference between my local changes and what's up on the github.com. And those changes are that I've added 4 new lines, 2 of which have some text. So I'm going to say update readme with local changes, just calling out the big fix. And I'm going to commit this, make a save to that branch. That's still only committing it down here on my local machine. And then I'm going to push those changes, those commits, up to github.com. Again, if you had a lot of changes, it might take a long time. Now over here, we can see that my README still only has that one sentence, but local changes has some changes. And I can do a couple of things here. One is I can change to the local changes branch, and I can see those. But another is that I can go ahead and open up a pull request. What is a pull request? A pull request, I hated this name when I first learned about it. It's you're requesting that the owner of this repository pull your changes in to the main branch or to whatever branch you specify. In this case, I'm requesting that the local changes branch, the commits there, get pulled in to the main branch. So make sure you've got a clear title and description, create the pull request. And back in my day, we'd email a patch file. Yes. And then this is what a pull request looks like. So we've got an open pull request. I want to merge one commit, and this is that one commit. We can see it. We can even look at the diff right here. Or sorry, this is browsing. I always do the wrong button. Oh my gosh, that's if you wanted to copy it. Well, in any case, we can browse it here. I'll show you where the diff is in a second. Here it is, files changed. We can look at the diff here. That this is what I've added. And there's a conversation. The biggest thing that GitHub provides for you, in addition to kind of a server, I mean, you could create your own server, but in addition to the server, is the ability to have conversations about code changes. So for example, I might say calling out the big fix, and maybe this is a large project with lots of reviewers. Maybe it gets assigned to someone. Maybe it gets a label like, security vulnerability or something. Maybe it's a part of a project, etc. But maybe Brian wanted to come in here and say, actually, Sarah, it's the big fix without a capital T. Could you please change that? Whatever it might be. We can merge the pull request. And once this pull request gets merged, now when we go over to code, we can see that that got added. And again, we can do the same thing over here. We can come in here, make a change, update that, say fixed a typo, commit directly to main, or create a new branch. We can either name it something interesting that will give information to someone who's browsing the code. This could just be like a simple typo, and then propose changes, fix a typo. There was a Q in with, and create it. If you have some additional checks, those will run, merge. All right, so I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, But I wanted to invite you all to try this out. If you haven't yet tried anything out with GitHub, trying it out on a large project might not be the best idea because it's going to add a lot of noise. So if you're just trying something out for the first time and you're not looking to contribute yet, you're just looking to try out how does GitHub work, I will invite you to try it out on my repository called Talks with Dr. G. So if you head over to Talks with Dr. G, you can come down to my 2022 talks, which is Snyk's the Big Fix. That's my first one of 2022. And in here, I have a pretty lengthy README that basically says, look, you want to try something out? This is what you can do. Number one, you can fork this repository. Forking happens here. It's got this little fork button. And what that means is that you are going to basically make a copy of my repository on your account. Okay? It's basically like making a branch, but it's different from a branch within the same repository because it's now owned by a different person. So you can fork this repository, then you can clone it or edit directly in the browser, whichever you prefer. You can add a note to this folder right here. There's a sample to give you an example of how what you can do. And then I wrote one. Here's one right here. And then you can open up a pull request to my repository. I will accept it in as long as there isn't anything, that isn't good, as in like unkind. And then you will be added to this share board. So right now it's just me added to the share board. And like was mentioned in the comments, you can add really cool stuff like screenshots, GIFs, whatever you want. I mean, not whatever you want, but a lot of different things you can add in, links to things, just a lot of stuff in Markdown. So feel free to just search for Markdown tutorials, add in pictures, add in GIFs. I will be approving them because it has to be accepted by me in the pull request, and then they will be added here to our share board. And that's kind of a way for everyone to try it out without kind of stressing out too much. The last thing I wanted to mention was the community. So Snyk, for example, has a bunch of different repositories, 200 in fact, in their organization, and you can check them out at github.com/Snyk. We already talked a little bit about this one. This is the main Snyk repository. One thing that I thought was really interesting was here in issues. This is a way for you to communicate back with projects, either with bugs that you find or with just like questions that you have. Remember that while some repositories are owned by companies like Snyk and have some people within that company that's paid to monitor these, a lot of repositories, especially in the open source world, are not monitored by people who are being paid to do so. So please always be kind, regardless of if you think someone's being paid for it or not. Be kind, recognize that folks are trying their hardest to help. That's why they're here. And so if you find a bug, include information, include your operating system, versions of software that you have, etc. Be responsive if they ask you for questions. If they say this is not a priority right now, recognize that it's not about you or your ideas or why you think this is the best change or the most important bug, but because they probably have limited folks who can make those changes. So please make sure that you're kind. One thing that I thought was really, really cool was this issue right here. Someone had encountered this problem. And what's really neat is that there was this conversation between the original person who opened up the issue. And I think this is Michelle Kaporin. And what he noticed was that this was actually originally opened in the Snyk VS Code extension repository. And he realized, oh, wait, this is actually a CLI issue. I'm going to transfer this issue from that repository on VS Code to the CLI repository and moved it over here so that the discussion can be more focused on where the actual issue is. And yeah, that's basically all I have. I know I ran into time. We've only got a couple minutes. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask. And you can also open up an issue here on my repo and I'll chat with you there.
Excellent. That was fantastic. You're doing all right on time, actually. No worries there. Well done, Sarah. Thank you so much for this. As you know, like beginner type of approaches of content is really near and dear to me. So glad to see join us to help out with that, especially for folks that might be
Definitely.
completely new. They're like, okay, I'm trying out Snyk, but Snyk also does GitHub. I don't know the first thing about it, you know?
Yep,
So that's
exactly.
awesome to see. And very well done. Very well done. I opened up
Thank
a
you.
PR just so you know, and
Perfect.
I changed the title, not on there though, but on the
Oh,
original one. Sorry.
got
I
it.
did it before you
No,
gave
that's
it.
fine.
And
All
I just want to
caps.
do all caps. Yeah.
Perfect.
Because, yeah,
Brian,
Snyk.
you did not provide a description.
Oh, shoot. That's right. That's bad
I mean,
practice.
it's
My
it's
bad.
it's hard when we're doing demo ones because the title is pretty much the description. But yeah, I can take a look at the files that you changed. Just make sure you didn't also do anything else that was wonky. All right, that looks good.
Oh,
I'll go ahead and merge it.
I
I'll
forgot the
merge
other typo though there. All right. Anyway, you see, bad me. Yeah, bad Brian. Thank you, Robert Tables.
it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And where can folks find you if they want to get in touch and learn more from you?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Guthals everywhere. My github.com/Dr. Guthals has other links, but basically on all social media platforms that I'm on, I'm Dr. Guthals. So you can find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. See you
Thanks for
around.
having me.